And the two parts of arguments are, one, yes, in medieval India, a lot of temples were destroyed and mosques were erected on them. And those are the grievances. And the other side of the argument is pertaining to that, that these grievances cannot be dealt with legally. Under the legal infrastructure, these are historical issues. But then how do you redress the balance? Because if matters such as these in every district go to court, then India will be ending up with, I think, more than 1,000 cases.
Well, Kartikeya, we live in a constitutional democracy where judicial remedies are provided within our constitution and the acts which have been framed under that very same constitution. Therefore, people have the right to approach the courts for the redressal of their grievances, and the courts finally decide. This is how constitutional democracy functions, where there are checks and balances on the various pillars of the system, a governance that we have. And that right cannot be taken away by anyone, including the government, or the courts even can't take away that right. Therefore, if anybody has a grievance, they approach the court. Yes, number of cases have been coming up, no doubt about it. And Places of Worship Act that you talked about, everybody starts quoting Section 3 and Section 5. But conveniently, people skip Section 4 because Section 4 provides an exception to Places of Worship Act, which says if there are ancient monuments, archeological sites and remains, which are more than 100 years old since 1958, from 1958, which means 1858 onwards, prior to that, then it is not covered under Places of Worship Act. And all these sites are more older than the that particular act, and that particular act has not been stayed by any court of law. It is where the Archaeological Survey of India comes into the picture, and even the court's interim stay, which has been granted by the court, is direction to the court that please do not entertain the petitions or order any surveys and all. This is the direction to the court, but not to the Archaeological Survey of India, whose objective under the act is to excavate and find out those ancient monuments, remains, and then preserve them. Therefore, ASI is absolutely free to do to achieve the objective for which it has been created under a particular act. Now, the problem arises if we take it to the extreme. That extremity is the problem. It is some people who wants to politicize it. That politicization becomes a problem where people start taking law into their own hands. Now, if you are approaching, even if I am approaching, or any of the panelists or the anchor is approaching a court, that is not illegal. To throw stones because somebody has approached the court and there is a court order to take law and order in their own hands, that is illegal and unconstitutional. That has to be dealt with. Otherwise, democracy cannot function. You will not obey the court's order. You will say, might is my right, and I'll come on the streets and I'll try to, control a site. Let's talk about Sambal. Sambal was a site.
I have a related question. I got your point, sir. I got your point. Yes. That was a court order. My point is very simple. People have constitutional remedies. It is perfectly okay to know what happened to your heritage. But I'm saying that there must be 20,000, 15,000, 10,000 mosques or 10,000 disputed structures, if I may use the word like that, anodyne word, disputed structure. If all of them go for litigation, then what happens? That was my question, sir. I understand the logic of historical grievances. With due respect, yeah, I understand there are historical grievances, and a lot of people say legal framework is not the way you redress issues. But then if all of them go to the court, then what happens to the fabric of the society? I want to know that part of argument from you, sir.
Let me come to that. Now, if you recall, the Hindu side only wanted 3 sites, most prominent sites, and they said, you please give it to us. It's so visible. But I don't think people got interested in it, the certain sections of the society. Even in Ram Mandir, people wanted to give it over to the Hindus. When the politicians, the leftists came to the picture, it is a matter of record also in court, if you read the judgment. And there was a solution. Then some people came into the picture and one could not reach a solution. Here the issue is the various sections of the society, community, whether Muslims or Christians or Hindus, first admit the particular fact that this particular site or a temple was destroyed and the structure was made forcefully. One. Secondly, other question that arises is the sections of the society will have to very clearly, according to their religious tenets and directives and dictions, whether a particular structure which has been destroyed was a temple and a subsequent structure was built on it, whether such a structure which has been forcefully built is a mosque or not under Islam. That's a
Okay.
very important
Okay,
question. And if one,
but you're saying, but then there can be a contrarian argument. Then why should the people who live today be responsible for atrocities or wrong committed by their forefathers?